Alrighty, guys. So what a day in college football. I mean, today we get Bill Belichick landing at Carolina, and now we have what a move by West Virginia hiring. We have two coaches in this cycle that used to be former head coaches from the program, and Rich Rodriguez is now coming back to West Virginia. He was there from 2001 to 2007, and I remember a couple of players that he had. Like I remember Pat White was a great player that was at West Virginia. I think he was with Rich Rod. And again, I was a little bit younger at the time. I mean, Tavon Austin came on the scene with Geno Smith, but that might have been right after Rich Rodriguez. So the guy was one of the best coaches in the Big East Conference at that time, and he was on top of the world, and he runs this, awesome spread offense. Then he went to Michigan for 3 years, and at Michigan, it didn't go that well. There was, I believe like a 3-win season in there or something, and just average play. And remember that he could have taken the Alabama job, and there was drama with him and Nick Saban back in that time period. There was 3-9, 5-7. Did win 7 games after. Had Nick Foles at Arizona, won 10 games at his time at Arizona in the desert, but then another 3-9 year in 2016. Never could get above 7 wins. And then after that, he took a 5-year kind of hiatus from Arizona. Took a 5-year hiatus and just wanted to reset, because Arizona's kind of is a tough job. And you also see coaches in Arizona. I will say this, you saw Coach Brennan from San Jose State have a very rough season in Tucson. And then also Kevin Sumlin. So Kevin Sumlin, was at Texas A&M. It really didn't work out. And then he tried to go to Tucson and do some work at Arizona. And I think he even failed more miserably than Rich Rod. I don't even know if I'd classify Arizona as a total failure. But Rich Rod took 5 years, and now he's running it back at Jack State. Couple 9-win seasons there, and honestly some impressive games, and have watched that offense, and the Gamecocks have looked really good. All right, and I think that they played in their conference title game, and guys, that's awesome. I think they won the conference championship in that league. All right, I doubt it's the Sun Belt. If they won the Sun Belt title, so Rich Rod is doing well. And he's 61. He's a native of West Virginia. He knows the job. I think he's going to inspire confidence. This fan base is going to get excited. West Virginia has had a lot of success with former coaches that are a little bit older. Well, I remember Beeline, but then they had Coach Huggins for basketball, and Coach Huggins would have great seasons in the Big East and in the Big 12, and Huggins is a beloved character at West Virginia. Fortunately, the latter years, there was off-the-court issues with Huggs, and he ended up leaving, but still, he was there 10 years and is still beloved by many out there. He's still a legend of the game. But talking about Rich Rodriguez, honestly, I'm pretty young to give you the full scope of the first journey at West Virginia. I think that there's a lot of nostalgia here for Rich Rodriguez. I think that for West Virginia, I think the job is a little bit hard. Being in the Big 12, I think that flying is a big deal. I know that people can scoff at the amount of travel it is for the Big 12, but they're kind of up there in their own footprint. And West Virginia, I mean, you have Pittsburgh that's pretty close to the campus, but it's not the most fertile recruiting ground. And then you have to battle Penn State for a lot of these guys. You have to battle Maryland, that's just getting more and more NIL money, Maryland. So the visibility is a little bit tough. So I think that the job pool, I think that really you have to consider who else was like really in on this job. And you might have had someone like Tyson Helton, who's done a decent job at Western Kentucky, but is not going to attract the boosters' eyes. And I don't know if Dan Mullen, I bet Dan Mullen was in for North Carolina, and you see that there were heavy hitters that were involved at North Carolina. It's because UNC has a really good recruiting ground. They have more NIL than West Virginia, I would say. The facilities are better at North Carolina, and then they play in the ACC, and they're a stalwart in that conference. And just like the travel, and they can out-recruit a lot of the programs that they're going against. I mean, we now look at the Big 12, and I think UCF is a better job than West Virginia. Arizona State is turning into a great destination with Kenny Dillingham. We also have Colorado that's actually thriving and doing well. BYU presents a whole lot of, I just think that the players out west, like, you might not get the wide receivers, but there's just more linemen that are out west, specifically by Brigham Young. So then you have Cincinnati, and I guess you're applicable to Cincinnati since he's in a bigger area than Morgantown. So it takes a special person to kind of like want, West Virginia, and the fact that they're going out and getting Rich Rod, one of their own, it's kind of awesome. It brings you back, to the glory days, and it's exciting. It really, really is exciting. So there is there's reservations about it because, a little bit older, had some mixed results after he left. The Big 12 is harder than the Big East used to be. So there's some reservations about it, but I think that, it all depends on the hiring. It all depends, again, with Rich Rod. I think that he's pretty intense by, what I see out there, and it just really depends on, can he steward this program and hire great, coordinators that are then going to be elevated and then taken on by other programs? Like, can he really run this thing? And I think if the boosters are behind it, that's the one thing that is exciting, is that I really do think that the boosters and people like Pat McAfee, I think that they're behind this hire. And you can funnel more NIL, and you could get West Virginia athletics back to a place of real fun. And if the boosters are really on board, and again, I think that like Dan Mullen, or I think that like a Glenn Schumann, like people that are, kind of, or even John Summerall that are like A-list people, I think that they even looked at the challenges of West Virginia in this case. So I think it's a decent hire. I think it's a very, very hard job. I have my doubts that West Virginia can go out there and can make a dent in the Big 12 conference and consistently be really, really good. Maybe they can be a fun team one year, get to 8 or 9 wins, but I'd rather, when I look at the landscape of the Big 12, honestly, and maybe this is motivation and a test for West Virginia, I look at Texas Tech and the job that Joey McGuire's doing, and I think that their program is ready to rock. I think Baylor is even like kind of getting a second win with Dave Aranda, TCU. So I think it's an uphill battle for the West Virginia Mountaineers in this case. And I maybe would have went younger. I maybe would have looked at a Tyson Helton. I maybe would have looked at like a Brennan Marion, but I still think it's a pretty solid choice, considering the history of what Rich Rod has done, considering now that he bounced back at Jack State and took some years away from the game, and you could be getting Rich Rod's best. So, again, I think it's interesting in this changing landscape. I would like if West Virginia played against Penn State. I'd like if they played a more centralized schedule, honestly. But yeah, I bet people are going to be more enthusiastic than I am about the hire. I think it's a decent hire, and I'm excited to see Rich Rod, see his personality, because in all honesty, I need to see Rich Rod in West Virginia. I was fairly young at the time, and I'm more into college football now, just frankly. So I'm excited about this, guys. Tell me about Rich Rod. You guys know about Rich Rodriguez even more than I do. There's certainly mixed results. I know Michigan didn't go great. Arizona was up and down, but Arizona's tough. And then Jack State has gone well. So has the pedigree, has done it before. Really exciting. Maybe he can get booster support behind it. So we'll see what can happen in Morgantown for sure. All righty, guys. Thanks so much. And thank you for watching Slaughterhouse Sports.